Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Gopiyana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopiyana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Gopiyana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopiyana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Madhuran Mridanga Paramarasale. The kirtan is good, but the Mridanga player is very good. Thank you so much, Bhakta Daniel. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrayakacharya Stotara Sata Srisrimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrayakacharya Stotara Sata Srisrimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devin Saraswatin Vyasam Tato Yayam Udhiraye Nasta Prayesu Bhadresu Nityan Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. Okay. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, Text 31st. Yes, 31st. Kusaka Samayam Barhir Astiryad Bhagavan Manuhu Ayayat Jagnya Purusham Labdastanam Yato Bhuvam Kusaka Samayam Barhir Astirya Bhagavan Manuhu Ayayat Jagnya Purusham Labdastanam Yato Bhuvam Kusaka Samayam Barhir Astirya Bhagavan Manu Ayayat Jagnya Purusham Labdhastanam Yato Bhuvam. Manu Ayaya Jagya Purusham Labdastanam Yato Bhuvam. Astiryam Bhagavan Manu Ayaya Jagya Purusham Labdastanam Yato Bhuvam. Kusaka Samayam Barhir Astiryan Bhagavan Manu Yapurusham Astirya Bhagavan Manu Ayaya Jagya Purusham Labdastanam Yato Bhuvam. Please. Kusaka Samayam Barhir Astirya Bhagavan Manu Ayagya Purusham Labdastanam Yato Bhuvam. Kusaka Samayam Barhir Astirya Bhagavan Manu Purusham Labdastanam Yato Bhuvam. Kusaka Samayam Barhir Astirya Bhagavan Manu Ayaya Jagya Purusham Labdastanam Yato Bhuvam. Kusha of Kusha grass, Kasa and of Kasa grass, Mayam made, Barhihi a seed, Astirya having spread, Bhagavan the greatly fortunate, Manuhu Swayam Bhuva Manu Ayayat worshipped Yajna Purusham Lord Vishnu Ladva had achieved Sthanam the abode Jataha from whom Bhuvam the earth. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Manu spread a seed of Kushas and Kasas and worshipped the Lord, the personality of Godhead, by whose grace he had obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe. Purport. Manu is the father of mankind, and therefore from Manu comes the word man, or in Sanskrit Manusya. Those who are in a better position in the world, having sufficient wealth, should especially take lessons from Manu, who acknowledged his kingdom and opulence to be gift from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus always engaged in devotional service. Similarly, the descendants of Manu, or human beings, especially those who are situated in a well-to-do condition, must consider that whatever riches they have are a gift from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those riches should be utilized for the service of the Lord in sacrifices performed to please Him. That is the way of utilizing wealth and opulence. No one can achieve wealth, opulence, good birth, a beautiful body, or a nice education without the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, those who are in possession of such valuable facilities must acknowledge their gratefulness to the Lord by worshiping Him and offering what they have received from Him. When such acknowledgement is given, either by a family, nation, or society, their abode becomes almost like Vaikuntha, and it becomes free from the operation of the threefold miseries of this material world. In the modern age, the mission of Krishna consciousness is for everyone to acknowledge the supremacy of Lord Krishna. Whatever one has in his possession must be considered a gift by the grace of the Lord. Everyone, therefore, should engage in devotional service through Krishna consciousness. If one wants to be happy and peaceful in his position, either as a householder or citizen or a member of a human society, one must promote devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. Om Ajnana Timiram Dasya Jnanangana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadam Tikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kamta Namostute Tapta Kamchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhupya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ayanulambita Vyokana Kavadatam Sankirtanai Kapitarao Kamalaya Taksha Vishwambaro Dviyavaro Jugadharma Pala Vande Yagat Priyakarao Karunavatara Yogindraya Namostasmai Sukhaya Brahma Rupine Samsara Sarpandastanyo Vishnurata Namo Mushad. Kusha Kasamayam Barhir Astirya Bhagavan Manuhu Ayayat Jagya Purusham Labdastanam Jato Bhuvam. Manu spread a seed of Kushas and Kasas and worshipped the Lord, the personality of Godhead. By His grace, he had obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe. At the end of the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami gives a very nice and detailed explanation of the punishments of living entities who are materially engaged in this world. So there are several descriptions of around 25, hellish places where people go after being engaged in so many sinful activities in a human birth. So that caught the attention of Maharaj Parikshit, who became very concerned about the situation of or the future of living entities who would be suffering these miseries. So he asked if there was any remedy for that to counteract, sinful reactions. So, for material activities. So at this point, Sukadeva Goswami started explaining about the process of atonement, how for a person who's materially engaged, whether pious or impious, he's sure to commit sinful activities. So the process of atonement should be there. And he says this is a very long discussion. It's actually one of the longest chapters in Bhagavatam. But this story of Ayamil came, and then we all know the story how Ayamil was a very dutiful Brahmana in the beginning of his life, but due to bad association with a prostitute, he became degraded. And eventually he completely forgot his Brahminical status, and he became 5th class man, as Prabhupada would say, 5th class man, who was engaging in all sorts of sinful activities and doing all sorts of, unique things in order to maintain a prostitute. And then how at the end of his life, when the Yamadutas came to take him to Yamapuri, he chanted the name of the Lord, Narayana, and immediately, the 3 Yamadutas were taking out, snatching the soul. And when he chants the name of Narayana, calling out of his son, immediately 4 Vishnudutas came. And they forbade the Yamadutas to take him back. And then right after, a discussion came about. The Yamadutas inquired, who are you? Who are forbidding us to do our service. We're the messengers of Yamaraj, and we are appointed to take sinful people to hell. This is our service. So who are you? So the Yamadutas, the Vishnudutas, they actually ask a question to the Yamadutas. They say, Juyam vai dharma rayasya jadi nirdeshakarina bruta dharmasya nastatvam yaksha adharmasya lakshanam. If you're saying that you are the messengers of Lord Yama, So you must explain to me two things. What is religion and what are the symptoms of irreligion? So they also ask about the process of punishing people in the material world and who is a fit candidate to go to hell. And they also ask the Vishnudutas if all the karmis were engaged in sinful activities, they are punishable or only few of them. So then the Yamadutas, start replying all the answers. They say that religion, Veda pranihito dharma, yadharma stad viparyaya, that whatever is prescribed in the Vedas is considered to be religion, and what is not prescribed in the Veda, or the opposite, is considered to be irreligion. Tad viparyaya means the opposite. Adharma tad viparyaya. And that we have heard from Lord Yamara. Swayambur iti shushuma. We heard that from Lord Yama. So then the Yamadutas then actually gave a really detailed explanation how the law of karma works, and also they spoke about the science of transmigration of the soul and so many things. Actually, the Yamadutas, if we read this chapter or this section, we realize that the Yamadutas are great preachers. Not only because of the service they're doing, they were scary. We all heard so many stories. I read a recent story, like it was about 5 years ago, something like that. It was told by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami that he had this female disciple whose her husband, he wasn't a devotee at all. Actually, he didn't believe in devotional service or Krishna consciousness, but she was a very dutiful devotee, and so she was engaged in so many services, and she didn't care about what her husband will say. But eventually, her husband got sick. He got cancer, and he was actually dying in a hospital. And one day he saw that through the walls of the room, 3 Yamadutas came. So they came to take him, and immediately he got fried out normally, and he started crying. His wife, but because she had a Krishna name, they went away, the Yamadutas. And at that point she came, and all the doctors came, and this man was in too much anxiety, and he said, "Please give me some beads and put Tulsi necklace around my neck, and I want to chant Hare Krishna now." So Maharaj said, "You see, we're trying to preach Krishna consciousness for 50 years and nobody hears. But the Yamadutas, they did in few seconds what we are trying to do for, we've been trying to do for many, many years." So by reading this section, we realize that the Yamadutas, they have really deep knowledge. Actually, it's one of the most philosophical sections in Bhagavad. I recommend everyone, especially those who are engaged in the mission or service of preaching, they should read these things, because it's a very detailed explanation of many topics of material existence. How the laws of karma work, the transmigration of the soul. They also quote this really nice verse that I heard Archita Prabhu once quoting, Surya Agni Kam Maru Deva, that there are so many witnesses, Soma Sandhyani Dishaha, Kam Kum Dharma Swayam Iti, Hiete Vaishyasa Shakshina, that there are so many Shakshis, so many witnesses. Because sometimes people argue, materialists, or other people from different religions, they argue that, okay, you're saying that in your next life or in this life we're suffering or enjoying the results of previous lives. So how can one know what he had done in his previous life? It's difficult to trace. We don't even remember what we did a year ago. So he said, the Yamadutas say that there are witnesses, that Surya, the sun, is witnessing, the Manus or the Devas, the demigods, and ultimately the super soul. He is like a CCTV camera in everyone's heart. So he is watching whatever you're doing. You wanted to cheat somebody, so the super soul already knows that you want to cheat somebody, or you want to do something good, and the super soul already knows. So the Yamadutas also explained that Jamaraj Manasaiva Pure Deva Purva Rupan Vipashitaha, that Jamaraj, he is situated in his abode in Jamapuri, and through his Manasaiva Pure Deva, Purva Rupan Vipashita. Purva Rupa means the condition of a living entity, so the mental condition of the living entity. So he basically, he can, just by seeing us, he can understand who we are. So there's no way of like going there in the presence of Yamaraj and saying, well, you know, you're saying that I did this, but I don't remember. If I don't remember, it means that I didn't. So no, he knows. So he really knows. He's empowered personality. He's empowered by the Lord to do that service. So then at the end of the discussion, the Yamadutas say, well, they started saying how Ayamil became a very sinful person, and then he was doing all sorts of things in order to maintain the prostitute and his family. And then they say, therefore, because he's a sinful man and he hasn't atoned for all his sinful activities, we have to take him to Yamapuri, and he will receive his punishment. So at this point, the Vishnutas, they say, Aho Gastam Dharma Drisham. They became very sad. They say that, alas, you know, it's so painful to see Aho Gastam Dharma Drisham Adharma Sprisha Se Bayam Sabam Sabhyam. That they say that it's very painful to see that in an assembly where religion should be protected, if religion is now being introduced. Because the Yamarutas and Yamaraj, Yamaraj is known as Dharmaraj. He's, he has to make sure that everyone is everyone is following Dharma accordingly, and everyone is getting the results, proper results. And the Vishnuduta says, now this man, he already chanted the holy name of the Lord. That means that he already atoned not only for the sinful activity of this lifetime, but so many millions of lifetime sinful reactions are already gone, just because he had chanted the name of Narayana in a hopeless condition without offense. So at that time, the Yamadutas went back to Jamapuri, and they were perplexed. So they approached Yamaraj and they say, we have heard that you're the supreme controller, but now we heard from another personality that there's another supreme controller. So how can, two supreme controllers be there? That's not possible. There must be only one, otherwise they will fight to each other. So that time, it is said by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that, and also by Srila Prabhupada, both agree in this, that Yamaraj became very ecstatic by hearing the name of the Lord, and he was very pleased with the Yamadutas. And so he explained that the Supreme Controller, Lord Narayan, he's above all the demigods and above everyone else. And every living entity is controlled ultimately by the Vedic injunctions given by him. So the Vedas that come out of his breath, and everyone is bound by Vedic injunctions. So, excuse me. And then he mentioned a very famous, or Prabhupada made this verse most famous. I just forgot right now. Bhagavad Pranitam. Dharman to Sakshat Bhagavad Pranitam, that religious principles are enacted by the Supreme Lord. Only the Supreme Lord can create religious principles. It's not like somebody else, I've become the president of some, just like Devavrata Prabhu used to tell me that, that he was living in a house when he started reading Bhagavad Gita with some friends, and then the owner of the house, there were so many boys living in the house, like, college boys, around like 10 or 11, I don't know, living in the same house. And the owner of the house used to say, this house is like a country, and in this country there is no laws. Basically you could do whatever you wanted. So it's not like that. Religious principles are Dharman to Sakshat Bhagavad Pranitam, are enacted by the Supreme Lord. And there are 12 authorities that know what religious principles are. Swayambhu, Narada, Shambhu, Kumara, Kapila, Swayambhuva Manu, Pralada, Jhanaka, Vishma, Bhaliva, Yasagir, Vayam. So this is Lord Yamaraj talking. He said that Swayambhu, Lord Brahma, and Narada, and Shambhu, Lord Shiva, and the Kumaras, the four Kumara, Kapila, Swayambhuva Manu, Pralad Maharaj, King Janaka, Bhishmadev, Bali Maharaj, Vaya Sakir, Sukadev Goswami. In these ways, Vayan means all of us. In this way, all of us, including Lord Maharaj, we know what religious principles are. So and then he quotes some other verse that's saying that Mahayano Yena, Mahayano Veda Tam. No. That verse is from Mahabharata. It's a verse quote, but Mahayano Veda Jam. I have to find this verse because it's very important for our discussion. I haven't memorized it, but I know it's in here somewhere. Oh, Prayena Veda Tam Idan Na Mahayano Yam Devya Mimohita Matir Bhatamaya Yalam Trayam Jadi Kritamatir Madhupushpitaya Vaitantike Mahati Karmani Yu Yamana. This is one of the most beautiful translations I've seen from Prabhupada. He say, because they are bewildered, he's talking about other people who, they write different, religions, principles, and so on. He said, because they are bewildered by illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yajnavalkya and Jaimini and other compilers of religious scriptures cannot know the secret, confidential religious system of the 12 Mahayanas. So basically he's saying that anyone else, he just completely bewildered by Maya. They cannot understand that the transcendental value of performing devotional service or chanting Hare Krishna mantra, because their minds are attracted to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, especially the Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Rig Veda. Their intelligence has become dull. Thus, they are busy collecting the ingredients for ritualistic ceremonies that yield only temporary benefits, such as elevation to Swargaloka for material business. They are not attracted to the Sankirtan movement. Instead, they are interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So this is a really beautiful verse. Prayena Deva Tamidam Namahaya No Yam. So Yamaraj basically he says that religious principles is real religious principles is to practice bhakti yoga, and the process of bhakti yoga begins with the chanting of the holy name. There is a verse also for that. He quotes it, but I just don't remember right now. Pumsam dharma parasmritaha bhakti yoga bhagavati tam nama grahanadivihi. That this nama, this holy name of the Lord, chanting the holy name of the Lord, is the beginning of devotional service. So when one begins or wants to begin his devotional service, he should start chanting the holy name. First of all, he should hear about the holy name or the glories of the holy name by authorized personalities, and then he should engage himself in this process, sublime process of holy name. And then we see in the life of Swayambhuva Manu, we were reading the other day, I think it was Gaurachandra Prabhu, he was elaborately explaining how he made so many arrangements for propagating this Krishna consciousness through hearing and chanting, that he will have like so many people in his palace, chanting the holy name, hearing the scriptures. He will engage himself in hearing. He will make sure that everyone else was engaged in deity worship, serving the Vaishnavas and so on. And so this is a very nice example of how people who got Lakshmi, got money and wealth in this world should act. Because sometimes we see that the more we get money, the more we become away, we go away from Krishna. I've seen a lot of that, a lot of people with money, they come to the temple and they have this policy of 20 and 20. They give $20 to Krishna, but they keep 20,000 for them, And this is not the system. Prabhupada would mention that how one should give half of his income. Otherwise, that money becomes more or less like Maya for them. They will be forced to engage in materialistic activities, which will create suffering in the future. And Krishna himself, in Bhagavad Gita, in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, no need to go so long in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, I believe is text 49 or something like that. He said, Durena hi avaram karma, buddhi yoga samashrita, buddhau sharanangam visha, kripana phala hetava. He said, my dear Arjuna, you now give up this avaram karma, which means materialistic activities or abominable activities, and just surrender to the process. Take shelter in the process of Krishna consciousness, which is very sublime. And in that consciousness, just surrender yourself to myself, Buddhao, Sharanam, and Viksha, because if you want to enjoy the fruits of the results of your activities, then you become a miser. You become a kripana. So you kripana phala hetava. You want to enjoy the fruits. That's like most of us are like kripanas, or we've been kripanas for many lifetimes, always trying to enjoy the fruits of our activities. But if you do the opposite, which is considered to be real yoga or real karma yoga, yat karoti yarasnasi yat juhosi dadati. So whatever you do, whatever you give, whatever you eat, tat kurusha amararpanam, and yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusha amararpanam. All the austerities you perform, because you have to perform austerities whether you are a materialist or a spiritual. Even a materialist, I have a friend he's a very successful personality in the material world. Actually, we both started reading the Bhagavad Gita together. This is really amazing, because we were reading so many spiritual books, or so-called spiritual books together, and we would discuss, and we were really into, sharing realizations, and this is really nice that the soul is different from the body, blah blah blah. So we came both to Bhagavad Gita, and we both loved the beginning, the Dehinos Minjatade. This is nectar. Krishna is such a personality. But because he's a kripana phala hetava, so when he read this verse, actually I will never forget this, he sent me a text, and then he said, I like Bhagavad Gita till this point, because now Krishna is saying that I should give to him, I should give up the desire to enjoy, or to enjoy the fruits, and I should surrender to this process of bhakti yoga and give everything to him. And then he gave a list of so many concocted things about why he should not be doing that, why he should enjoy all these properties, because this or that or that. I don't remember exactly what he said, but that was the end of his spiritual life. Hare Krishna. Because he's completely bewildered by materialistic opulence. He has a lot of money, like 4 or 5 cars, and like 2 houses, and a very beautiful wife, and so many kids, running around, and all the opulence of material is him and Maya. That's it, nothing else. So yeah, Hare Krishna. So this is the process. One should, if one has resources, one should employ all the resources for the expansion of the Sankirtan movement. This is the duty. Prabhupada explains it very nice in the purport. No need to go in detail. Everyone knows this, that one should employ whatever resources he has got in the service of Srila Prabhupada and our previous acharyas. This is our philosophy, is Yukta Vairagya, that we should employ. Sometimes I've seen a lot Srila Prabhu discussing about this, because we use Facebook and we use so many material things, and people say, well, what I think you monks, you should be sitting in some corner or some cave, or going into the Himalayas and doing your meditation, not eating, but you have like a really, every Sunday you have a cake, and there's so many parties, and there's so many festivals. And we're not using that for our enjoyment. We're giving everything to Krishna, because the devotee understands that Krishna is a supreme enjoyer. It's not that the devotee has the desire to enjoy a particular cake or a pizza or a car, or he uses it for the service of the Lord, and that is called Yukta Vairagya. He is anasaktasya visayam yatarhang upayum jatang. He is not attached to the enjoyment of whatever possession he has, but the materialist is the opposite. He is completely attached. So therefore he cannot, in his mind, in his consciousness, there is no idea of that. There is no this thought of, okay, surrendering everything to the Lord never comes. But ultimately they have to surrender, because their wives will ask for so much money, and the kids will ask for so many things. We have a devotee in Atlanta that when he read the 5th canto for the first time, he there's some heavy verses in by Sukadev Goswami saying that the wife, a materialistic wife, she's like a tigress and the kids are like jackals. So when he read that, he said, wow, it's Prabhupada is extremely heavy person. I don't like this. So he didn't like it, but later on one day, he took his children to the park, and then, the daughter was asking for, like, she wanted to eat something, the other boy was asking for like something else, a ball and toys and this and that, and he spent like $200 or $300. So he realized, wow, these are like jackals in my life. He came to that conclusion. So yeah, this is basically the lesson that we're learning from Swayambhuva Manu, that if we got some wealth, it's not because of our effort or our intelligence or whatever skills we may have. It's just the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and it should be engaged in the service of the Lord. And that's the way by which we receive Krishna's blessings and Acharya's blessings, by engaging whatever we have. It is a duty of every living entity. This is explained in the 10th canto, I believe chapter 5 or 4. It is a duty of every living entity to show mercy and compassion. And the best way to show mercy and compassion is trying to utilize or give oneself and whatever possession we may have to the Sankirtan mission. And by so doing, we'll definitely achieve the blessings of superior personalities in our line. I just remember, like, this is final statement I'm going to make. His Holiness Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj used to say that sometimes people, they just want to get the mercy of the Lord. So they come to the temple and they say, Sadhu, Sadhu, Kripa Korum, give me your mercy, give me your mercy. And then Maharaj would say, Are Baba, give some money. We're building this temple. You give some money. So there are some devotees in the West trying to spread Sankirtan movement. You give some money to them so that they can like print books and distribute books. And at that time, that person will say, oh, I'm very poor. I don't have money. Now my daughter is going to get married. And I have this problem, and my mother is sick, and this and that and that. So Maharaj would say that this is called Niskapata Seva. These are people who are trying to serve with duplicity in their heart. And their surrender is of 3 times. It's either partial or artificial or conditioned. They're not surrendered at all. So one who keeps this formula of 20 and 20, I give $20 to Krishna, but I give 20,000 to myself, he cannot be called a surrendered soul, even if externally he claimed to be. So, like coming to the temple and offering obeisances and doing all the things that people do nowadays in front of the deity. No, one have to be practical in his devotional service. And if somebody got a lot of money, a lot of resources, he should employ those. Because ultimately, Mrityu Sarva Haras. What is that? Mrityu Sarva? Mrityu Sarva Haras? Chaham. Ultimately, I am death, and I'll take everything away. So I'll end the class here. Comments or questions, or yes, Bhakta Kevin Prabhu. Yeah, he's coming to you in a few seconds.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Thank you for the wonderful class. It's funny you mentioned the incident with your friend. When people only read the first few chapters of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is teaching Arjuna how to become renounced or to not think oneself to be the doer, to become humble, and people just read the first few chapters, they don't get the complete message. Because in the beginning we are taught to give up sense gratification, but once we surrender to Krishna or the spiritual master, the Krishna and the spiritual master are extremely merciful, and they don't they won't just take your things and tell you to become like go chant in the forest. And there's many incidents in Chaitanya Leela where his devotees wanted to give up everything, but Chaitanya's like, no, keep everything. But we have to develop the desire to give up everything. Not necessarily, the desire doesn't mean we actually end up giving up everything, right? Even His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj after college, he wanted to give up all his stocks to Srila Prabhupada. Like, I just want to surrender you. And Prabhupada said, no, keep it. But he appreciates the desire. So ultimately, people don't have to make that connection. Okay, it's about the mood, it's about the desire, but I can't. But it's not necessarily. Then I leave it up to Krishna. I leave it up, and then Krishna provides the intelligence, right? So what can you say, like the main point being, yeah, if you stop the Bhagavad Gita at the 2nd chapter, where he says give up all this nonsense, then you might miss the main point, right?
Well, but Krishna doesn't say give up your things. He say don't engage in avaram karma. Do not engage in materialistic activities. That's what he says. He doesn't say actually, if you have a car, just throw it on a river or whatever. Just do something else. I don't know. He just say use that car, but use it for the right purpose. Avaram karma means to engage in abominable materialistic activities. But you can use the car. The other day, Archit and I, we went to this Jesuit place, and we went by car. We didn't go walking, and we were preaching and sharing our philosophy with them. So you can use your car, and you are a very nice example of that. So you use whatever you have for the service. It's not like you give up everything we have, or whatever we have acquired in our previous activities, but we use those things. So that's what Krishna says. Use whatever you have for the service. As you were saying, we have to develop the desire of ultimately samsiddhim haritoshanam, do things for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. This is real dharma. This is the real duty of the living entity. It's not that if we have material things, Krishna doesn't say just, sometimes we see some descriptions like that in Chaitanya Lila, like Srivas Thakur, when Mahaprabhu came, and he say, hey Srivas Thakur, I see that you are a grihasta, but I also see that you don't go out to maintain your family. So Srivas Thakur, he just clapped. He say, why should I go out and engage in my activities? I'm day and night chanting the holy name of the Lord. So but this is a really high stage. Yes, Archita Prabhu wants to give his nectar. I'm eager to hear right now.
Haribol, we're running a little late here, but to tie two things together, that verse you were trying to remember, Etavan eva lokesmit, pungsak dharma paraksmita. Bhakti yoga. So you begin with the chanting wherever you are, and then that ties into Lord Brahma's remembrance when he was speaking to Krishna, that stane stita, stay in your position. So you don't have to try. If you're in a so-called materially lowly position, don't spend your whole life trying to improve that. Whatever comes naturally by your efforts you take. And if you're born in a high position, materially, socioeconomically, you don't have to throw it away, like Prataparuja wanted to do. He wanted to, I can't see Lord Chaitanya, so I'm just going to give up my kingdom, become a mendicant. Lord Chaitanya did not approve of that. Stay in your position as king and just practice bhakti yoga properly. So that's the real message. It's not that you don't give up or you give up, or nothing belongs to you anyway. Prabhupada used to give the example of a crazy person going to Bank of America and saying, I renounce all this money. It doesn't belong to him, so he's a nut. So to renounce anything, you're crazy. You can't renounce anything. It doesn't belong to you. The real message of Bhakti Yoga as given by Srila Prabhupada is stay in your position and use whatever you have properly. Let me educate you how to use it properly. So in your case, like he was saying, you have a car, you don't have to go and give it up, and no, keep using it to go out and distribute Farsi books and
Jai.
Like that. That's the proper use of that car.
And deliver all the inshallah people. Yes. Jagatrata Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Ganganath Prabhu. Thank you very much for your nice class about why we should engage our material opulence in the service of the Lord, and that way we can become free from hellish suffering. Can you please expand a little more on the connection that you made between the pastime of Ajamil with the Vishnu Dutas discussing with the Yamadutas and the theme of the purport to give 50% of our wealth one of the points in the purport to give 50% of our wealth for Krishna conscious activities. What is the overall connection between these two sections that you brought up in your class?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, it is. The answer is in that same section. There is a verse when they say that even if somebody is piously engaged in the material world, his activities will be contaminated by the three modes of nature. So therefore, one should offer whatever he has in sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, and that's also the instruction of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Yajñartha karma no nyatra aloko yam karma bandhanat. If sacrifice and whatever we do in this world should be done as a sacrifice, whatever we have, or whatever activities we perform, should be done as a sacrifice for Lord Vishnu. Otherwise, that binds the living entity in this material world. So yeah, it's basically like that. But you should study that section because you'll love it, actually. Because you're very philosophically inclined. And I love that so much.
So that's
we will discuss that later, dear. Don't worry.
That's the reason. That's why you brought up the Ajamil.
Yes, because Ajamil represents the person who, like us, that we are attached to the things, sinful activities. This is our background. Most of us, we come from an impious background, so we're attached to sinful activities. And by Prabhupada said that suddenly, not everyone can come to this, standard of chanting the holy name. That good fortune is also required. So in the meantime, one have to purify oneself by the process of karma yoga, which is giving, giving what the result of our activities to the Lord. So what possession we have, engaging our activities in different service, and by so doing, we develop jnana, and through jnana we can purify ourselves, and we become actually free from misconception that we are the body, that we are the doers, and all these different things. So then, after this jnana gets mature, then we'll develop bhakti yoga. We develop the sukriti for bhakti, or the bhakti vritti, and then one can engage probably in pure devotional service. But not everyone can come to that platform suddenly. So these things are. So that's why Bhagavatam goes systematically explaining these things. Bhagavatam doesn't begin in the 10th canto, Krishna playing the flute and all the liberated souls around dancing and performing blissful pastimes. Bhagavatam begins from the point of a person who is materially attached, like Maharaj Parikshit. Although we know his pastimes also, he's a liberated soul, but he's acting as a materially attached person, and so he gives up everything, and then he goes to the bank of the Ganges to hear, what shall I do? What a man who is condemned to death should do, at this critical time. Yeah, we can speak about that later, dear. Okay, Hare Krishna. Grantha Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.